Good evening. I would like to call the City Council meeting to order on Monday, June 11th. I'd ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
All council members are present.
Okay, the following items will fall under consent unless there's comments, questions from council members. Item number 3, the regular City Council meeting minutes of May 29th, 2012. And item number 4, licenses and recommendations of the Alcohol License Advisory Committee, including an appeal of the denial of an operator's license for William R. Miller. I'm actually going to pull that license and recommendation. My understanding is Mr. Miller is here. Is that correct? Okay, so we're going to pull the item number 4, the recommendations of the Alcohol License Advisory Committee, including an appeal with the denial of an operator's license for Mr. Miller. So we'll go to that right now. And let's see. Councilmember Keeley, you were present at the ALAC meeting. Do you have any comments to make regarding the ALAC meeting and the request by Mr. Miller?
Mr. Miller requested to talk to the council, so he did not attend the ALAC meeting last week.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Miller, if you'd like, you're more than welcome to go to the podium and state your reason for being here. For Mr. Miller, as well as for those members in the audience, we have one podium to work with this evening, and it's going to the podium where Mr. Miller is going right now. And Mr. Miller, if you would, please state your name and address for the record. That would be wonderful.
William R. Miller, 1109 Cherry Street, Janesville.
And Mr. Miller, I can just state from what we have in front of us that you did not appear before the ALAC committee, the Alcohol License Advisory Committee, on June 5th. And at that time, it was moved to deny your license application and seconded and passed unanimously, and that you wish to come to the council because you were unable to attend the ALAC meeting because of a work schedule.
That's correct.
Okay, so you have the floor.
Okay. I wish to appeal this negative recommendation. I do work as a relief and substitute bartender at the Janesville Vets Club VFW Post 1621, which has a strict no drinking while on the clock policy. The club manager, Tom Heath, requested that I get licensed so that I can be regularly scheduled and or substitute without the need of another licensed bartender to be present. I also have a letter from Mr. Heath. I believe you may have a copy of this. To whom it may concern, William Miller is a life member of the Janesville VFW Post 1621. Currently, Mr. Miller is serving as the Post House Committee as the Assistant Chairperson. The House Committee is responsible for regulating the operation of our canteen, food, and beverage. Wearing many hats, Mr. Miller has volunteered endless hours to the club, helping with maintenance, event security, stocking, restaurant service, and general cleaning. Among other duties, he has also volunteered hundreds of hours bartending alongside and supervised by a licensed bartender. Mr. Miller is a member of an elite group of the VFW, the Cooties, whose sole purpose is to fundraise for the support of hospitalized veterans in need and the National Home for Children. Mr. Miller is currently looking to obtain a Janesville bartender's license to further benefit our club. With a bartender's license, Mr. Miller could enhance his service as an officer to the House Committee and help with the canteen operations when his bartender skills are needed. While working as a volunteer, as a bartender, Mr. Miller will continue to be supervised by the club manager, assistant manager, and post commander. We hope you would take this into consideration as to be granted a Janesville bartender's license. We feel Mr. Miller deserves this chance to better himself and better serve our post. This is signed by Tom Heath, the club manager, Brian Rickman, the post commander, and John Sutner, the House Committee chairman and assistant quartermaster.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Councilmember Stever.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, first of all, I understand you're a vet, and I would like to say thank you for your service. I think you can understand why there's a hesitation to approve your license request. When was the last time you were arrested for alcohol-related incident?
I'm going to guess right around 10 years ago.
So it's been 10 years since your last...
Between 8 and 10, yes.
Do you still consume alcohol at this time?
Not in the manner that I used to. Very rarely. For instance, Sunday I had 2 beers at a birthday party. At the club, being in the position that I am in, I'm one of the people that's expected to stop such things from happening rather than encourage such things.
Okay. Well, I think it raises a kind of a red flag when we get a report that shows that you've had several arrests, and that's concerning to anyone that would approve a license where alcohol is distributed or dispensed. And I know that we're sharing a mic here. I'd like to ask the chief what their position is, or if they can lend any more information, please.
Certainly. David Moore, Police Chief. Mr. Miller has had 5 convictions for OWI, the last being a felony, and that conviction was registered in 2004. So there is about an 8-year span here when there has not been an arrest for OWI. The felony arrest causes Mr. Miller to come before the ALAC, and as indicated, he was unable to appear, so he's appearing here this evening. The police department does have concerns because for many years of Mr. Miller's life, he has seen where it was okay to consume a considerable amount of alcohol and still drive. Now he'll be in a position to pass judgment on whether others can consume that alcohol and drive. So with that, we have concerns. We feel better that 8 years have passed, but I guess I'm interested in Mr. Miller's view of his responsibilities, and he spoke to him briefly here that he sees himself as a watch guard for that. So if Mr. Miller has indeed changed his alcohol consumption and he's willing to take the responsibility to watch out for others, he could be successful. If he is not, we would not make that recommendation.
Chief, just a couple quick questions. Generally, and I'm trying to put this in context here, in the past where we've dealt with people that have had felony convictions for whatever, have we approved any of those licenses?
There are some, and oftentimes it's like Mr. Miller, where there are a number of years, almost a decade, in between that felony conviction and the application for the operator's license. And
to the best of your knowledge, has there been any other incidents, whether alcohol-related, driving-related, that Mr. Miller has been involved in where police have been called to residence establishment?
No sizable issues since 2004.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Keeley?
Okay, thank you. My question is, what is your, responsibility? Are you an employee or a volunteer that would be carrying this license?
Well, I volunteer a lot of times, but when they need a bartender, say you can't make your shift, I'm on call to make that shift, provided that there's another bartender. That would be if there's an event going on, for instance. Now you can't make it, we have a wedding, I'll be called in for that kind of service.
In the aspect, though, are you an employee or are you a volunteer?
In that aspect, I am an employee.
You're an employee in that aspect. Okay. Okay, that's all I have right now.
Mr. Miller, how long have you been serving alcohol at this facility?
It will be going on 2 years now, and I have been a bartender in Janesville before, but this was many years ago.
Okay, thank you.
And I might add that none of my DWIs had any work-related incidences involved.
Councilmember Stieber?
You know, one of the things that I've always said is that I think that we have to at some point give a person a chance. And from what I heard from the chief, that there hasn't been anything that has been substantial between your last arrest, which was 8 years ago, and today. It sounds like to some degree you're working under the scope of a bartender, a licensed bartender now, and the only thing that this would do would be give you greater flexibility. Having said that, I'm going to make a motion to approve the license with commentary after.
Is there a second? Second. There's a motion by Councilmember Stieber, second by Councilmember Keeley to approve the license. Councilmember Stieber?
Mr. Miller, I cannot impress on you enough that we're giving you an opportunity and a chance. And if this passes, the last thing I would hope that I don't want to see, I don't want to ever see a report or something to come back asking to revoke that license because of an incident. There's very few times in a person's lifetime that they're given a decent chance, and I think that we owe it to you to try to take and better yourself and try to take and move forward and put the past behind you. So I'm willing to take that chance, but I ask that you take it, and please don't make me feel bad later on down the road. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Keeley?
Again, I think it's been a while since you've had the last one. I think it's great that you volunteer hours there. I mean, my big thing is your employer is going to bat for you. I mean, that's, I think, important. But I would like to make one friendly amendment, and I believe we can do this, that the license would be valid only at the VFW. So if he would go to get a bartending job somewhere else, he'd have to apply for the license, and we could go with that. So I would like to make it site-specific on this.
I'm good with that.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would be...
That would be the difference. So the friendly amendment is that the license would only apply to the VFW. Anything further?
That'll be it.
Councilmember Liebert?
That was my suggestion. So. Thank you, and Mr. Miller. I hope that like Councilmember Stieber said, a lot of people don't get second chances, and 5 OWIs is a lot, but it's been almost a decade, and I know people can change in a decade. And I hope you're a success story. So hopefully we won't have to come back to this. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. At this time, I'd ask that you vote. And that motion passes with Councilmember Voskuhl opposed. Mr. Miller, you actually have been given approval for the license specific to the VFW.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Item number 5, acceptance of grant funds for restoration of storm windows for the Tallman House. And Judy Adler, and some of it, what appears to be, it looks like some of the other questers are here.
Good evening. I'm Judy Adler. My address is 320 Oakland Avenue, and I'm here tonight representing the Monterey Questers. Also with me tonight are Kathy Durant, our chapter president, and Marge Smith-Peterson, our projects chair. Questers is an international organization which was founded to further the interest, knowledge, and education about antiques, and to encourage the preservation, restoration, and conservation of historic buildings, sites, and monuments. A year ago, we came before council, and it looked a little bit different than it does today. We requested authorization to apply for an international grant for the restoration of 10 storm windows on the Tallman House. We are here tonight to let you know that we have received the grant in the amount of $6,000. In addition, we have raised funds locally to cover the entire cost of restoring the 10 storm windows, an amount of $7,450. Kathy Durant is here to present the check to the council on the behalf of the Monterey Questers. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to respond to them. Thank you.
I wanted to make sure that I had the microphone so that the viewers at home could hear, but I'd like to, on behalf of the council, thank you for continuing the efforts. The questers, although today it's for the 10 windows, the questers have repeatedly come to the council for a variety of projects for the Tallman House, and we're extremely grateful for you continuing the quest, if you will, to continue to make the Tallman House the great site that it is for the city of Janesville. So thank you very, very much for this wonderful contribution of $7,450 to cover all of the 10 windows. Thanks again. Okay, item number 6, special recognition, action on a proposed resolution and commendation of Robert J. Shank's service to the city of Janesville. File resolution number 2012-920.
Resolution number 2012-920. Whereas Robert J. Shank is retiring from City of Janesville employment after having diligently served the people of the City of Janesville and the community for 25 years, retiring as a driver-operator with the City of Janesville Fire Department. And whereas during Robert J. Shank's employment with the City of Janesville, he provided exemplary professional service and demonstrated conscientious devotion to the duties of his position, which he performed with skill and ability, sincerity, honesty, and dedication. And whereas it is desired that such commendable service to the City of Janesville be properly recognized, now therefore be it resolved that the people of the City of Janesville, through the City Council, do express their grateful appreciation to Robert J. Shank for his 25 years of loyal public service.
Thank you. Councilmember Stever?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt file resolution 2012-920, recognizing Robert J. Shank's service to the City of Janesville.
Second.
As a motion by Councilmember Stever, second by Councilmember Liebert, to accept the retirement commendation of Mr. Shank's service to the City of Janesville. Please vote. And that motion passes. I'm pleased to report, unless Mr. Shank is here, that he's already enjoying his retirement. So, on behalf of the council and the residents, we thank him for his 25 years of service to the City of Janesville. First item under old business, requests and comments from the public regarding items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing. And again, we have one microphone, and for those individuals that wish to speak, when you go to the microphone, just state your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes to speak. I think we're just waiting for the individual last person to sign up.
Salvador H.
Just come over.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Salvador Hernandez. I'm the owner of Hacienda Real Mexican Restaurant. We would like to do an outside patio, serving alcohol outside.
Okay.
It's already been approved.
It was already approved
All right.
earlier in the evening.
I'm sorry.
So how's that for service?
I'm with some of my employees on vacation right now, so I'm doing the cooking work right now. So that's the reason I come late.
Oh, well,
I'm
that's
sorry.
great. Well, it was already approved, and now you can just relax and then go
All right.
back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no one else.
Okay. Yeah, the alcohol license, yes. You're good as well. Anyone who was here regarding alcohol license advisory committee, where we discussed Mr. Miller, that also passed. So you're good. Anyone else? Okay. You're welcome. I apologize for not making that clear. Item number 1 under new, it's actually item number 1 and number 2, and I guess what I'm going to ask the council is, because we've already reviewed the Wisconsin Partnership for Housing and the Lincoln Street property, would you feel comfortable to go without presentation, or would you like the presentation again? I see no presentation. Okay, so the first item, number 1, action on a proposed resolution authorizing the city manager to convey the property located at 176 Lincoln Street to the Wisconsin Partnership for Housing Development Incorporated, file resolution number 2012-909. Councilmember Stever?
Make a motion to approve file resolution 2012-909.
The motion by Councilmember Stever, second by Councilmember Severson to approve file resolution number 2012-909. Further discussion? None. Please vote. And that motion passes. Item number 2, action on a proposed resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a developer's agreement with the Wisconsin Partnership for Housing Development, Inc. for the purpose of rehabilitating the home at 403 Lincoln Street under the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, file resolution number 2012-919. Councilmember Stever?
I'd make a motion to adopt file resolution 2012-919.
A motion by Councilmember Stever. The second by Councilmember Liebert to adopt file resolution number 2012-919. Further discussion?
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Councilmember Farrell.
Thank you. This question's for Jennifer on this. I looked through the, I'm not an attorney, but I looked through the contract, and is there a sales price or a limit on how much they're going to be spending on this new home, or did I just miss that, or I probably did, but
yeah, there's a lot of pages there, so I don't blame you for that. But there is a maximum amount, and the contract would provide for up to $109,622. That would cover the delinquent taxes that they would use to acquire the property, the rehabilitation, any ongoing holding cost, property taxes while they do the rehab, and then their developer's fee. It would be on the very last page of the agreement. There's a budget document there.
It's on 919.
Oh, okay.
You might be looking at the,
yeah, okay. I see that. Okay.
Do you see it there?
Okay. The developer's fee, is that a standard percentage on on a new home, or does it vary?
It is a standard percentage. I didn't do the math.
Thank you.
Councilmember Donguera Adams.
And I don't know who this question is for, so whoever knows the answer can just raise their hand or just speak. So the Wisconsin Partnership for Housing Development is the one buying this. They're taking title to the property?
Correct.
Okay. So does this developer's agreement, is it signed before they buy the house, buy the property? Just from my background, I'm wondering, if they get into this and buy this house and there's all kinds of liens or it's a mess, what are the responsibilities of the city of Janesville if we've entered into this developer's agreement already?
The actual agreement would be signed after they take title. The subordination or the loan forgiveness on the CDBG loan and the deed transfer of property would occur simultaneously, but again, those two items would occur before the developer's agreement would be signed.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any at this time. We have a motion and a second by Councilmember Stever, second by Councilmember Liebert. Would you clear, please?
I pushed the wrong button.
All right, please vote. And that motion passes for file resolution number 2012-919. Item number 3, action on a proposed resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a facility use agreement with the Janesville School District. File resolution number 2012-918.
Thank you, Council President Vasco. Rebecca Smith, City Manager's Office. Since 1979, the school district and the city have shared various facilities by allowing the other to make reservations free of charge. The last official agreement ended in 2011, and staff has been working to update a new agreement. Resolution 918 before you this evening provides authorization for the city manager to execute our updated facility use agreement. This agreement is for 3 years in length and includes the majority of school district facilities. Highest priority for reservations goes to the facility owner. Second highest reservation priority goes to, in our case, the school district. One new component to this agreement is the implementation of a true-up program. This system requires each entity to keep track of their reservations and those made by the other entity and assign a dollar value to each reservation based upon the attached fee schedule. The entity with the higher total cost for use of the other party's facilities shall pay the difference between the parties' costs. We anticipate reservations to be generally even, with a small dollar amount changing hands. Following any questions, the city staff does recommend the council approve Resolution 2012-918.
Thank you, Becca. Councilmember Severson?
Thank you. Just so everybody knows, even though I wasn't working on this when I was on the school board, I'm going to pass just for keeping it clean and simple, so I will pass on this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Liebert?
Thank you. I did have one quick question in regards to the 3-year renewed agreement. Is it common, I'm not a lawyer, but is it common practice to backdate contracts when they expire to kind of continue through to cover ourselves, or for, because I'm sure we've used schools for voting poll locations and things like that?
Yeah, we started working on this contract over a year ago, so we kind of knew we wanted to implement the true-up when we started our conversations. So both entities have been keeping track of their reservations going back to September of 2011, so we don't think it will be an issue.
I guess with that, just to get the ball rolling, I make a motion to approve Resolution 2012-918.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Liebert, second by Councilmember Stever. Councilmember Liebert?
Nothing further.
Councilmember Stever?
She answered the question that I had.
Okay, Councilmember Farrell?
Rebecca, I just have one minor question on the agreement. When there's a cross-country meet and there's lost revenue to the golf course, that lost revenue will be charged immediately and is not part of the true-up. Am I correct on that? It's item H.
H. Do you have a page number by chance, Councilmember?
10. It's page 10.
Okay. So,
There are a variety of exceptions that go both ways, and I think that is one of them. I think you're correct.
I was just wondering why that just wasn't included in the true-up, but, I mean, it's pretty minor, but...
well, I think the reason for that is because the golf course is an enterprise fund, and we do need to make them whole for their revenue and expenses.
That makes sense. Thank you.
I don't see any other questions at this time. Motion by Councilmember Stever, second by Councilmember Liebert.
No, other way around.
Liebert, I apologize. Councilmember Liebert, second by Councilmember Stever. Please vote. And that motion passes with Councilmember Severson abstaining. File resolution number 2012-918. Thank you, Becca. Item number 4, action on a city manager recommended citizen appointments to the Citizens Board of Review. Councilmember Stever.
I'd make a motion to approve the appointments made by the city manager.
Second.
It's a motion by Councilmember Stever, second by Councilmember Severson to recommend the citizen appointments. Any further discussion? Please vote. And those appointments pass to the Citizens Board of Review. And for those of you that are here, the committee recommends Philip Yoss for the alternate number 1 vacancy for the Citizens Board of Review. Yep, for the Citizens Board of Review, and Jose Carrillo for the alternate number 2 vacancy. Is that correct?
Those are the appointments. The first one was recommended by the committee. The second name came up after the committee recommendation.
Okay. Item number 5, requests and comments from the public on matters which can be affected by council action.
Mr. Miller signed up, but I think he left.
I believe so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I don't see him.
Pat, who lives on Woodman Road. I'm sorry, I can't read your last name, Pat. Yes.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about the 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin and the Green Tier Legacy Program.
Excuse me, Pat, if you would mind sharing your name and address.
Oh, Pat Schuler, 1126 Woodman Road.
And Mrs. Schuler indicated that she may have difficulty finishing her statement, and if that's the case, her husband is going to finish on her behalf, and then he also will have his time. So go ahead, Mrs. Schuler.
Okay. Smart growth policies are stated clearly in UN Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is a document put forth by the United Nations. Its policies, if all are enacted, will affect every aspect of our lives. So far, our Constitution has protected us from the full force of this document because we are sovereign, and the Constitution protects our sovereignty. So how does this foreign entity introduce its policy without the U.S. becoming an actual signatory? Activists in conservation have slowly introduced policies with words so silkily designed as to make one think that this new and wonderful effort to save the planet and all its resources as well as natural habitat for everything and anything but humans is the only way, especially those who enjoy life's luxuries such as heat in the winter, air conditioning in the summer, cars and recreational vehicles, and lawnmowers which run on gas to cut grass yards surrounding our homes. Each of our daily activities pollutes Mother Earth. 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin is new to Wisconsin. However, it is an activist group with chapters that operate in almost every state in the U.S. I believe it has been in operation since 1986 along the coastal regions of the U.S. and is now permeating the interior. Former Mayor Chislevich of Madison was instrumental in forming a chapter in Madison. Looking at 1,000 friends throughout the U.S., they are active through lobbying for legislation to enact smart growth policies, which include rewilding, UGBs, which are urban growth boundaries, which move populations from rural lands to population-dense areas with specific boundaries, reforestation of large swaths of lands to restore natural habitat for animals and insects, natural coastlines, and reclamation of wetlands, all of which carve out large swaths of states and prohibit economic development of any kind on these lands, including housing, fishing, hunting. For those in the UGBs, the activists work to impose regulations on housing, which result in walking communities. Walking communities are developed with high-density housing, modern-day row housing, and tenements with very little parking, 1 car per unit, to encourage less dependency upon cars and encourage use of light rail, bikes, and walking. None have any recreation areas for children. They are encouraged to go to public parks. Good luck when the snow falls in Wisconsin. Actually, I can't think of any particular group who would like this arrangement, with the exception of career couples with no children. Grandma and Grandpa certainly won't like walking for groceries in the winter either. Thank you.
Thank you.
I made it.
Thank you very much.
And my
Richard Schuler?
Yes. Same address. Florida and Alabama are no longer participating in smart growth. New Jersey has placed the Office of Smart Growth under the direct supervision of the Lieutenant Governor to ensure it doesn't interfere with economic development. Portland, Oregon, considered the gold standard for smart growth, has seen a steep rise in prices of real estate, rivaling the prices of housing in California as land gets scarce and the UGBs, resulting in a disenfranchisement of minorities and the elderly. 1,000 Friends of Florida has the most comprehensive website of the activities of their group, including their challenges in court, which always favor the protection of everything but humans and property rights of citizens and landowners. They meddle in every aspect of land ownership, and they do not hesitate to use their attorneys whenever they perceive that there's a violation of the comprehensive plan. It is my belief that the City Council to enter into this charter or contract would tantamount to the City Council losing some of its authority to direct the will of the citizens in future growth of Janesville. It is my belief that these policies are an effort to increase activism for smart growth and have the cities comply voluntarily in a bottom-up fashion that sneaks Agenda 21 through the back door. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Doug Reboot.
Doug Rebout, 6401 West Mineral Point Road. I dropped off invitations up there before. I am president of the Rock County Farm Bureau, and we will be hosting our third Focus on Ag event this year that I would like to invite the City Council to. It will be held June 27th out at Larson Acres. And the purpose of this event is to kind of get the rural and urban communities to know each other, the leaders in the communities. So when issues come up, such as the Highway 1114 bypass or the PACE or anything like that, we have built a relationship. So I'm just here to invite you all to this event.
Okay, Mr. Rebout, do you just want to say the times and what's at each time for those individuals that might be listening or here in the audience?
We're going to start at 10 o'clock with a farm tour. And Larson Acres over by Evansville is a large farm, so we're going to do an hour-and-a-half farm tour there. And then Randy Thompson, retired extension agent, will be talking on the economic impact that agriculture has in Rock County. Then after that, Jim Leverich will be talking on nutrient management. And then after that, we have Karen Geffert from the Farm Bureau office talking about OSHA and the immigration reform. And then after that, we're just going to have question and answer and then be serving lunch.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Paul Limbrick.
Good evening. I hope that everybody can hear this. Sometimes we have a little difficulty getting our sound correct to everybody. My name is Paul Limbrick. I reside in the city of Janesville at 102 North River Street. My comments will be directed in regard to Mr. Heinecker and his proposal for green tier for the city of Janesville. As a high school class taught me that a simple contract between two parties could easily be amended or declared null and void by mutual agreement. The same is said of multi-party agreements only if all parties also are in agreement. Any dissenting signatory could demand at law full compliance of all other signatories. The simple position on contract law has been taught the world over for many generations and has been the foundation of business relationships worldwide prior to Roman and Greek civilizations, predating Egyptian dynasties, and remains unchanged today. Inasmuch as I respect the number of years Mr. Heinecker has dealt with and pushed for green tier contracts, I find his hesitancy to answer the question regarding the enforcement power held by each signatory unusual and very suspect. See above, and the JAA TV recordings from last month's meeting, or last week's meeting, whatever, and last year's as well. Mr. Heinecker has refused to provide that simple and direct answer 2 years in a row, referring, of course, to Council Stieber's question this year and Mr. L. Limbrick's question last year. Mr. Hineker sidesteps the question, referring you to his legal department each time. Mr. Hineker states that the contract contains boilerplate language that would be very bad for Janesville. Again, see JATV recording. Mr. Hineker should be happy to provide each member of the City Council and the public with complete, exact copies of said proposed charter containing within its body the complete legal names of all signatories, specifically excluding any others. It appears Mr. Hineker's charter is intended to dominate/replace the current charter of the City of Janesville and to permanently destroy its sovereignty beyond recovery, thus permitting the authority of the City of Janesville and the City Council to be replaced with a bureaucratic nightmare of assorted of government and non-government organizations of dubious intent. I prefer the current City Council to I prefer the current city charter to remain intact, untouched, and unchallengeable. With all due respect, I request the City Council to reject Mr. Hineker's proposal in its entirety.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Limerick.
Georgia Janik.
My name is Georgia Janish, 1514 Dayton Drive in Janesville. I've been a resident of Janesville my entire life. I'm here tonight to express my ongoing concern with green tier and similar environmental type programs, also known as sustainable development and smart growth, each a program under the umbrella of Agenda 21, a United Nations initiative for sustainable development that tosses property rights aside. Although few have heard of it, the battle over Agenda 21 and its policy of sustainable development is raging across the nation. More than 60 communities have taken action to oppose it. Several states have introduced and some have passed resolutions or legislation against Agenda 21 and sustainable policy, including Maine, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Arizona, and yes, Wisconsin. Due to citizens' protests in 2011, Wisconsin legislators drafted Assembly Bill 303, a bill for communities to opt out of smart growth, comprehensive planning programs such as green tier, etc. On February 16th of this year, I attended a public hearing at the Capitol addressing Assembly Bill 303. The hearing room was full. City planners and lobbyists pushing the UN agenda spoke in favor of comprehensive planning programs and against opting out of them. Those protesting the sustainability agenda and arguing for the opt-out bill were Wisconsin citizens affected by the intrusiveness of the program. There were many. In fact, they outnumbered those trying to sell sustainability. Last year, I provided some of the council members with a packet of DVDs and documentation exposing a more insidious and subversive agenda behind these United Nations green programs. Tonight, I am providing the council with another packet which includes a statement from one of those Wisconsin citizens who testified at the hearing on Assembly Bill 303. I will not have time to read it, but another individual will read it so that those who are listening or watching tonight can be aware of the implications for all of us eventually. This citizen's experience should be an example and a warning as to what we can expect. May I move? I've got one paragraph. Thank you. If we move forward with the Green Tier Smart Growth Agenda 21 programs, This bold agenda will not only destroy the freedoms and rights our forefathers fought and died for, but may very well compromise or nullify a city council's authority in the future. Please listen to the people speaking tonight against Janesville's involvement with Green Tier. We have done a lot of research on this program and its related agenda. It may sound good to the uninformed, but if you look beyond the feel-good terms, you will vote no against an agenda that, as our president's promised, would transform America. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Dan Stewart.
Don Stewart, 4404 North River Road. And this is a statement made in regards to this Assembly Bill 303. My name is Jeff Yelton, and I'm from the town of Stockbridge in Calumet County. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'd like to see smart growth comprehensive planning completely repealed because it is expensive, intrusive, un-American, and a boot on the throat of private property owners. We've all heard the horror stories from around the country that come from centralized planning and regulatory agencies run amok. Grandmothers being fined for illegal tomato gardens, the physical removal of long-time residences from shorelines to accommodate new setback requirements, the run-up in property taxes as land is taken off the local tax base for more and more greenways, parks, and etc., and the role restrictive land use regulations have played in the housing crisis. First, the run-up, I read that, okay. But I'd like to tell you about my personal experience with smart growth comprehensive planning. Our township defeated smart growth at our annual town meeting in the 2007 when residents voted against it 10-1. But our town board turned spineless when the county demanded they repay tens of thousands of dollars in county planning expenses, and the town decided not to participate. In early 2010, I got a call from a friend. He said, "You really need to read this draft of the Smart Growth Comprehensive Plan." I did read it. So did my wife, who is a Madison MBA graduate. But at 100-plus pages, with a lot of disturbing language, we needed to take it to a lawyer to get the real story. We live on a 115-acre farm on the eastern shore of Lake Winnebago. We've raised commercial show horses there for over 20 years. Our land has always been a farm going back generations. It is in the township and county that is over 90% agricultural. The lawyer confirmed our fears. According to the draft, our farm was now a non-conforming use. If the barn burned down, we couldn't replace it. If a horse died, we couldn't replace it. If we needed to do any remodeling or significant repairs, that would require the approval of the Plan Administrative Board and an advisory group, our neighbors. We would be unable to sell our property as a farm, even though we invested over $1 million in farm improvements. We would need to keep our yard mowed to no more than 4 inches high. You get the idea. But the lawyer also pointed out a few other tidbits. The draft plan was full of incidents of spot zoning, which was illegal. It had restrictions that is based on out-of-date law. And after this, the planning company drafting the plan, a personal friend of mine, one town board member, paid up $50,000 in taxpayer dollars.
Mr. Stewart, are you almost finished?
Just about. No, not really.
Okay, why don't you finish this paragraph? And
okay. So here's what we did. We started an awareness program campaign in the town's horse community. We got lots of people to go to the board and county meetings. We distributed flyers. We brought in knowledgeable speakers. When that fell on deaf ears of our elected officials, we started a direct legislation action and requested a referendum. We gathered more than double the signatures required. We spoke at public hearings. Our town board members got increasingly agitated. Retaliatory action included a threat by the town board member that some of the horse farms might be annexed into the village, which doesn't allow horses. an illegal visit to our farm by one board member who said on the QT, if we got the other farms to accept smart growth, comprehensive planning, he would get our other board members to grant favorable treatment for our farm.
Mr. Stewart, I appreciate you reading that to us, but I just know that we have it in our packet, so thank you very much for your comments.
Jim Party.
Good evening, council members. My name is James Pardee, 3703 South Murray Road, Janesville, Wisconsin. I've worked at Warner Electric Brake and Clutch for the last 30-plus years in research and design. Research also occurs in my private life, and tonight I would like to comment on sustainable development and the Green Tier project. The United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda 21 was unveiled at the 1992 United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, ballyhooed as the Earth Summit. 178 nations adopted Agenda 21 as official policy. President George H.W. Bush was a signatory for the United States. In 1995, President Bill Clinton, in compliance with the United Nations policy called Agenda 21, created the President's Council on Sustainable Development. With great fanfare, the Council issued a comprehensive report containing all the guidelines on how our government was to be reinvented under sustainable development. Those guidelines were created in order to direct policy for every single federal agency, state government, and local community government. In 1998, J. Gary Lawrence, advisor to the President's Council on Sustainable Development, said, and I quote, "Participating in a UN-advocated planning process would very likely bring out many who would actively work to defeat any elected official undertaking local Agenda 21. So we will call our process something else, such as comprehensive planning or smart growth," unquote. Enter smart growth, progressive communities, historic preservation, community development, urban redevelopment, comprehensive planning, quality growth, heritage areas, etc., etc. And last but not least, Green Tier legacy cities. My research shows that all these programs, including Green Tier legacy cities, are the same as and aiding in the implementation of Agenda 21. The bottom line is, two of our most critical freedoms are ownership of property and the right to grow food. That is what the socialist-based Agenda 21 is after, and it would eventually be accomplished locally through the Green Tier Legacy City program. One wonders if anyone else has studied this out and come to the same conclusion. My research has shown that to be the case. I have copies of these articles for each of the council members. Kansas lawmakers seek resolution against insidious UN Agenda 21. Tennessee passes resolutions slamming socialist UN Agenda 21. Arizona would ban UN Agenda 21 within state, and that is, I believe, passing. Alabama adopts first official state ban on UN Agenda 21, and that did pass. In conclusion, I am against the Agenda 21-based Green Tier Legacy Cities project and recommend that it be dropped, and that we continue on our current successful path of independent, no-strings-attached, local self-government. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Purdy.
Peter Eptet.
Peter Epted, 324 South Academy Street. This also relates to the Green Tier issue and related concerns, especially the presentation made at the previous council meeting about Janesville entering into an agreement with the DNR to become a Green Tier legacy community. Steve Henniker spoke then, and I remember him also speaking at a longer presentation in these chambers about a year ago, which I have recently reviewed on DVD to refresh my memory. In his presentation last year, he mentioned one thing in particular,
that I'd like to address now because it's something that should concern all citizens. That point was the need for a binding contract, which was clearly shown in the text of the overhead display. When people asked what that would obligate the city to do, he stated that neither party to the contract would actually be required to do anything against their will, which was surprising. He said that either party, the city or the DNR, could walk away from the contract without penalty if, as he said, either one should find that it's not working out, as he put it. But the purpose of a binding contract is to spell out in detail exactly what the obligations and benefits will be for all parties to the contract. Yet Mr. Hineker said clearly more than once that any party to the contract can bow out if they desire without penalty. As I pointed out, that's not how a contract works, because that's the very thing it's designed to prevent, the violation of the contract by any of the parties. Also, as I recall, he named 3 or 4 other parties to the proposed contract, and in reality, all parties must agree to ending a contract. And those other parties are not likely to agree to any change of mind on our part. To me, this provokes an obvious question. If it's meant to be a contract without the usual penalties, why do we need to have a contract at all? Why doesn't the DNR just announce that these services are freely available to all communities and that they can all make use of them if they choose to? They could also create a network for cities to communicate with each other and with the DNR to figure out what might work best for them based on other cities' experience. This could all be done totally on a voluntary, non-contractual basis. The City Council should look very carefully at this proposal because an unwise decision on this could obligate the city to some very restrictive conditions without any recourse. Another unexpected consequence to you on the Council could be your own loss of sovereignty over community issues, loss of total control in this area. It could well be down the road that the DNR will end up making decisions for you instead of with you about our local issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Apted.
Robert Bellard.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Robert Bellard. I'm 74 years old, and I've lived in Rock County all my life. I live in Beloit. I'm from Beloit, so why am I here?
Mr. Bellard?
Yes.
Could you state your street address?
Yes,
for the record?
842 Bluff Street, Beloit.
Thank you.
Janesville is the crown jewel of Rock County. As Janesville goes, so goes Rock County. This green tier is the carrot on the string with a very deceptive plan called Agenda 21. It is the foot in the door. It's a cancer upon the land formed by the UN with its tentacles reaching into every township and county designed to slowly squeeze this great republic into a pulp of dictated control. I was here last year to hear this man, Steve Hineker, weave his web of deception before your city council. He uses carefully guarded words to promote his agenda. He has lied to us, saying on video 2 weeks ago that this green tier is not political. I say it is very political, and Agenda 21 from the onset is 100% political under the guise of green environmentalism. That we should all bow and scrape to any program that flies the banner of green environmentalism. I say no, but that we all must be educated to the truth of globalism, tentacles that are trying to engulf our eroding freedoms. You, the City Council, will have lost nothing by not contracting with this green tier. Once you resolve to contract, the whole city corporation will be bound by the chains for generation. This man, Steve Hineker, is feathering his own nest, creating a bureaucratic job for himself out of the taxpayers' money. It's a great deception and song and dance. Don't be fooled, councilors. Janesville does not need a bureaucratic program from the DNR and the UN to know how to run this wonderful city. In 1775, Patrick Henry said, quote, "It is natural to a man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty?" Unquote. Next year, I won't be here to tell you I told you so. Janesville, the future lies here tonight more than you realize. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard.
Jack Leader.
Jack Leader, 1705 Randolph Road, Janesville. Say no to green tier. ICLEI was founded in 1990 as the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. The council was established when more than 200 local governments from 43 countries convened at our inaugural conference, the World Congress of Local Governments for a Sustainable Future, at the United Nations in New York. ICLEI provides technical consulting, training, information services to build capacity, share knowledge, support local government in the implementation of sustainable development at local levels. Our promise is that local designed initiatives can provide an effective and cost-efficient way to achieve local, national, global sustainable objectives. That is from ICLEI. Through its local, regional, and international programs and projects, ICLEI works with local governments to generate political awareness, key themes in the area of sustainability: Rio +20, biodiversity, climate, eco-mobility, management instruments, procurement, resilience and adaptation, sustainable cities, water, ICLEI future city leaders. Sound familiar? It's familiar to green tier. Same goals. United Nations initiatives to take control of everything. It's all Agenda 21. This all morphs into different names through nice sounding NGOs. It's really about UN control worldwide that will close the chapter on U.S. freedom. You will be opening up the back door to a rabid animal. It's a terrible idea with terrible consequences in the end. Say no.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Leader.
Thank you.
Duffy Dillon.
Good evening, Duffy Dillon, 3837 Skyview Drive in Janesville. Here tonight in my capacity as a member of the Board of Directors for Janesville Youth Baseball and Softball. As many of you know, Janesville Youth Baseball and Softball has been operating Janesville's Little Leagues since 1958. We are a volunteer-managed, nonprofit organization, and our mission is to do everything we can to help Janesville kids develop into tomorrow's leaders. In 2008, we took on our biggest challenge ever. In the face of a stressed economy, we decided to raise $1.5 million and partner with the city of Janesville to build 8 new baseball and softball fields at the Janesville Youth Sports Complex. We knew that project would require an extraordinary commitment by our organization, but we also believed the project was essential if we wanted to keep making a difference and better serving Janesville kids for generations to come. If you've had a chance to visit the sports complex recently, you know that we have come a long way since 2008. Although we're still seeking donations to install lights on our new fields and meet our fundraising goals, our new park is already forming and is already helping to improve our program in incredible ways. And we are proud of our accomplishments, and I want to report those to the council tonight. In 2009, we launched our first ever girls Fastpitch softball league. Our 4 new fields and concession stand at the sports complex are the softball home that Janesville girls never had before then. In 2010, we launched our first ever baseball league for 8-year-old boys, and that league now serves 7-year-olds too. In 2011, we expanded and restructured our tournament team program with championship results. 3 of our teams won state championships, and our 14-year-old team advanced to the Babe Ruth World Series in Virginia and finished 5th in the nation. We could not be prouder of them, and the 16 teams we have this year are representing Janesville well across the state and beyond. This year, in 2012, we will host 3 state tournaments and 10 tournaments overall at the sports complex. I'm proud to report that baseball and softball officials from across the state have recognized that we are building a first-class facility at the sports complex, and they want to come to play here. We look forward to welcoming thousands of visitors to Janesville and showcasing what our city has to offer now and in the many years to come. Today, on any given day of the week, we welcome over 500 people to the sports complex. They come to watch over 700 boys and girls playing on 57 teams in 8 leagues on 10 fields with close to 200 adult volunteer coaches leading the way. Achievements like these are exactly what we envisioned when we committed to developing the sports complex. We're serving more kids than ever, we're doing it better than ever, and our new facility really has us poised to do more than ever for generations of kids to come. I hear the beeping. I have just another minute here. Okay. When we took on this project in partnership with the city, we promised the taxpayers that we would sell our property on Woodman Road and apply 100% of those proceeds to the project. I am pleased to report that we recently sold the Woodman Road property for $275,000, and 100% of those proceeds have been deposited in our capital fund with the Community Foundation and will be applied to the project. When we include those funds, we have JYBSA on its own has now contributed nearly $350,000 of its own funds to the project, and we've raised a total of nearly $1.2 million in cash and in-kind donations. With the sale proceeds in hand, we're now on firm financial footing to finish all the site work by the end of the month. We wish to express our gratitude to the taxpayers in the city of Janesville, all our donors, the city administration and staff for providing such great support to this project from the beginning. You entrusted us with the mission of designing and building essentially half of the youth sports complex, and we've taken that mission very seriously. Our focus has always been to build a park that will stand the test of time and serve Janesville citizens well for what we hope will be more than the next 100 years. Words can't fully express our gratitude to the people of Janesville and to all of our donors. So, as a small gesture, very small gesture of our thanks, we wish to invite every city council member, all the city employees, and every taxpayer, every citizen of the city out to our complex on the 4th of July for an open house. We'll be playing our All-Star games from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. that day, and we'll be giving a free ice cream cone to anybody who comes out and visits us that day. We hope you can come out and enjoy the park, see for yourself what we can see. The city of Janesville has a new crown jewel in the city of parks, and it's the sports complex. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Councilmember Stever?
I just wanted to say that having had a grandson that played out there at the new facility for several years, that you guys have done a remarkable job in a very short amount of time, and also in light of the economy being somewhat depressed, I think you guys did just a stellar job with developing that area. So thank you and your group for all your hard work.
And as a parent who's had a couple of sons and one who had a game tonight and won, I just want to say that it's not only about the baseball diamond, and you touched upon that, which is the future leaders and getting these kids all working together and rallying on a team with good coaches and just kind of working towards a goal. And that's pretty evident when you see those kids suit up. So thank you very much for that. I know we'll be out there on the 4th of July. Any other comments? Eric, I had a question because we had so many individual.
There's still one more speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Miriam Williams.
My name is Miriam Williams, 651 Park Avenue, Beloit. I just wanted to make, first of all, a note from a previous speaker that the President's Council on Sustainable Development was just signed in, ushered in by President Clinton, was never voted on by Congress. Yet it's being implemented all over the United States and with some force. I first heard of Green Tier last year, and in fall attended one of the sessions held in Beloit for small business owners. I obtained some of their literature and began to read between the lines, already having done many hours of reading and research on United Nations Agenda 21 plan, so I was familiar with the terminology. Reading at the Green Tier website and from the handouts, I noticed they support sustainability and smart growth, which is one of the ways Agenda 21 is being implemented. This is why most homes in our area now have digital smart meters instead of the old analog meters. Eventually, they will be connected to smart appliances and the smart grid, enabling two-way communication with the power company, which will control the amount of power we are able to use, which will not be at our discretion. This information is all available on the internet and from people who are behind the smart grid system. Though I am not from Janesville, I speak as a resident of Rock County to voice a word of caution with involvement in Green Tier, especially after hearing the concerns Mr. Lembrick brought up at the previous council meeting regarding how difficult it may be to get out of the charter, which is a contract with them. This should be a cautionary note, and I hope you will give it some weight in your decision. What happens or is decided in Janesville usually pans out in the rest of Rock County, and please consider carefully what you are getting us into with collaborating with Green Tier. Thank you.
Thank you, and I apologize for not realizing there was one more speaker. But the reason why I was asking was because we've had several speakers talk about this evening. What city council will this be returning to? I can't remember if we actually determined.
We said, I can't remember, but right now it's tentatively on the next council agenda.
Okay, so I just wanted, for those individuals that are here, it's tentatively on for the next council meeting, which would be the 25th, correct? So I just wanted people to know that. Anyone else?
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Matters not on the agenda? Matters on the agenda? Okay.
I just wanted to remind the council that there's a council retreat at Rotary Gardens from 8 to 4, scheduled from 8 to 4 on Tuesday, June 19th.
You're going to send out information out too?
Yes. I should send out, hopefully have information out by middle to end of this week.
No. Would you repeat the time for council members?
8 to 4.
Thank you.
Give me the date again before we get here.
It's Tuesday, June 19th.
You're not going to get treats if you keep up this week.
Okay. Any other matters not on the agenda? Councilmember Stever.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion by Councilmember Stever. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
By Councilmember Liebert. Please vote. And that motion passes. Thank you very much for all of you who came here this evening, and thank you for everyone who's watching this evening on JATV. Have a good day tomorrow.